You didn't accuse them, didn't challenge them, didn't say a single word. But suddenly, they started explaining, justifying, adjusting tone, filling the silence. You weren't aggressive. You weren't reactive. You were just still. But that stillness landed somewhere inside them. They couldn't protect. That's a mental pressure point, a buried insecurity, an unresolved loop, a part of them they don't let others see until someone walks in who doesn't blink. In this video, you'll learn how to trigger emotional instability and truth leakage without saying a word, just by holding the frame they were never strong enough to face. Part 1. What are mental pressure points? They're not visible, they're not obvious, but when you touch them, everything reacts. A mental pressure point is a deep psychological vulnerability buried under presentation. You don't need to name it. You just need to stand where it hurts, and the person will do the rest. These are not physical triggers. They're emotional residues, a need to be understood, a fear of not being enough, a guilt that's never been addressed, a confidence that's only surface deep. You don't confront them. You just withhold signal where they expect affirmation, and suddenly the system shakes. Most people spend their lives covering these spots. They talk over them, laugh over them, perform over them, argue over them, but none of it makes the pressure point disappear. It only stays unexposed until someone like you sits in silence long enough to let the pressure rise. You don't hit the point. You let them walk into it. You don't ask. You don't accuse. You don't press. You just hold presence and allow their own imbalance to reveal itself. That's the key. The real pressure isn't what you apply. It's what they can't hold in your presence. Mental pressure points are where control begins. Not because you overpower, but because you don't relieve the tension. And when someone sits too long with themselves, they always start talking, always start leaking. Part 2. Why subtle tension triggers deeper than direct confrontation. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to confront them. You just need to hold the silence. They can't survive. Because direct confrontation activates defense, but subtle tension, it activates exposure. When you attack, they lock up. The moment you accuse, they brace, deflect, justify, shift blame, power up the ego. Now they're defending identity, not engaging with truth. It becomes a battle of frames, and both sides lose control. But when you stay still, they open. They wait for a reaction, and none comes. They expect judgment. But you remain neutral. Now there's no conflict to fight, just space, and that space turns inward. Silence equals mirror. Most people rely on external feedback to stabilize self-image. When you remove that feedback, no nod, no "it's okay", no interruption, no emotional cue, they lose orientation. Now they're not defending against you, they're confronting themselves. And that's when it leaks out. Nervous laughter, over-explaining, sudden topic shifts, apologizing without being asked. That's not weakness, that's exposure. Subtle tension works because it's undefined. They don't know what you're thinking, they don't know where you stand. They don't know what's coming next. And the brain hates undefined tension. It wants relief. so it starts searching. Did I say something wrong? Why are they quiet? Are they judging me? What did I miss? And just like that, they're destabilized. Not because you spoke, but because you didn't. Real pressure doesn't look like pressure. It looks like stillness. It feels like discomfort. It sounds like silence. But beneath that silence is the one thing they can't handle: being fully seen, without being told what you see. You're not controlling them. You're just not interrupting the collapse. They're holding back, and that's how you win, without attacking anything. Part 3. 3 types of hidden weakness you can trigger silently. Weakness isn't always loud. Sometimes it wears a smile, a strong voice, a confident stance. But under that surface, the pressure points are waiting, and when you stop reacting, they start unraveling. 1. Validation dependency. The need to be seen. This is the person who over-explains, seeks affirmation, performs for approval, can't tolerate disinterest. They rely on your emotional feedback to feel stable. So what happens? When you withhold that feedback, you don't nod, you don't smile, you don't affirm, you don't react. Now they're floating, untethered, nervous. They try harder, say more, change tone, but it doesn't land. Because you're no longer the mirror. They're used to controlling. That's when the panic begins. 2. Fragile confidence. The polished but brittle persona. They sound sure, they look sharp, but it's built on reaction, not foundation. And when you don't react, no praise, no challenge, no validation, no correction. Suddenly, the confidence has nothing to bounce off. Now they wonder, do I still have the upper hand? Did I lose their respect? Am I being evaluated? And that inner doubt starts seeping into posture, tone, breath. The crack shows, and you didn't say a word. 3. Guilt loops. The unresolved weight beneath the surface. Some people carry guilt they never processed. It hides under overcompensation, unsolicited kindness, passive aggression, overcommunication, and the moment you go quiet, the guilt rushes forward. They interpret your stillness as judgment, even if you never judged. Why? Because the voice inside them was already accusing. You just stopped covering the noise, and now they confess things you never asked about. One rule applies to all 3. You don't trigger them with pressure. You trigger them with space. Space to overthink. Space to project. Space to collapse. And when you know what kind of weakness you're looking at, you know exactly what not to give them. Because sometimes withholding signal is the most accurate way to strike. Part 4. How to apply pressure without speaking. You don't need to speak to apply pressure. You don't need to move forward. You don't need to confront. You just need to hold still where others can't. And the longer you hold, the more they reveal. 1. Hold the gaze, neutrally. Not aggressive, not approving, just still. You look. You don't blink early. You don't smile to relieve tension. You don't help them feel safe. You let the moment stretch. Past their comfort, because what they project into your stillness tells you more than their words ever could. 2. Don't fill the space. Let them try. When there's silence, don't break it. Let them justify, re-explain, backtrack, shift tone, because silence doesn't feel neutral to someone who's unstable. To them, it feels like exposure, and exposure equals pressure. 3. Stay emotionally flat. Don't reward, don't punish, don't respond emotionally. No raised eyebrows, no reassuring nods, no reactive expressions. You're not cold, you're opaque. And when people can't read you, they start overcompensating, because they can't calibrate their identity without feedback from you. 4. Interrupt momentum with stillness. When they're escalating, you don't match pace. You slow it down, shorten your movement, deepen your breath, hold your posture, respond slower, if at all. Now they feel like they're sprinting in place, while you're grounded, still, watching. And stillness under pressure is the loudest dominant signal there is. Frame becomes pressure. When you refuse to relieve it, they expect a response, a cue, a shift, a reaction, and when none comes, they realize they're carrying the entire interaction alone. That imbalance is crushing, and you didn't even raise your voice. Part 5. What to watch for when pressure lands. You didn't raise tension, you just didn't release it. And now, they're reacting, not with logic, not with control, but with raw, unconscious behavior. Here's how to read the breakdown in real time. 1. Unnecessary explanation. They start saying too much, clarifying things you never questioned. Just so you know, what I really meant was, I hope that didn't sound wrong. This isn't communication. It's internal discomfort leaking out. They're trying to close a loop you never opened. 2 tone shifts mid-sentence. Confident, hesitant, playful, flat, dominant, defensive. One moment they're leading, next moment their voice stumbles. That's the moment pressure hit. Their nervous system just registered your silence as threat. 3. Physical micro-collapse. Shoulders drop, breath shortens, jaw tenses, eye contact breaks, lip licking, finger tapping, shifting posture. They're not in control anymore. Their body's trying to manage discomfort. You didn't create, only revealed. 4. Seeking your signal. They start watching you, reading your face, waiting for a nod, a smile, a cue. Why? Because your stillness has become their mirror. And in that reflection, they don't know where they stand. Now they seek approval from the very presence that exposed their instability. Final sign, they change behavior mid-interaction. They recalibrate, softer tone, more respectful words, less eye contact, more careful phrasing, and all you did was stay still. That's when you know. Pressure landed, frame held, control shifted. Final CTA. You didn't call them out, you didn't challenge them, you didn't even speak. But something shifted. They talked more. They explained what you never questioned. They looked at you like you saw something they were trying to hide, and you did. Not by force, not by confrontation, but by staying still long enough for the mask to crack on its own. That's the essence of mental pressure points. No aggression, no labels, no instruction, just presence, just precision. just pressure by design. And when the pressure lands, they expose themselves, without realizing you are holding the mirror. From now on, don't rush to respond. Don't comfort their discomfort. Don't ease the silence. Let the tension sit. Let the loop open. Let them come undone by the part of themselves they were never ready to face.